Welcome to the Q.A.C. Team podcast, where we dive deep into the journeys of inspiring business owners, bringing you insights and challenges from the entrepreneurs who are shaping our world. Join us as we explore their paths to success. Now here's your host, Charles Luttrell.
Good afternoon, listeners. My guest today is Rachel Gaddis. Rachel, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How about yourself?
I am doing awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on to the Q.A.C. Team podcast this afternoon and telling your story. So let's go
Thanks for
ahead and
having me.
let's go ahead and get started and tell our audience who you are and what you do.
Well, I am Rachel Gaddis, as you said, and I have a coaching business that I'm focused on helping ADHD women over 40 to find an ADHD friendly career that they love.
Well, that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
It seems like that's a common problem nowadays. We're recognizing ADHD.
Yeah, more and more of us are getting diagnosed later in life.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of shakes things up for us. I myself was diagnosed at 44 with ADHD, and it kind of makes you look back at your past life and also at your current life and kind of go, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's like the signs, right? It's like, oh, I can see that now, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So tell us, why did you decide to be a business owner?
Whew. Well, I like so many of us, I changed jobs and careers many, many times for
Uh-huh.
decades. And I felt like I was just looking for a place where I would fit in, and I just couldn't find it.
Mm,
I think I finally realized that I was just never going to find a place where I fit if I was working for other people. It was like corporate and consulting just wanted to fit me into this little box that I just
right.
wasn't ever going to fit into. And it was partly because I'm not neurotypical, but it was partly because I just couldn't be my real authentic self in those environments. And so that's when I decided to start my own business. I just thought eventually I would. And then a series of events in my personal life kind of kick-started me into just going ahead and taking the plunge.
Right, right. Yeah, that's what happened to me. I was in the corporate world for 16 years and I
Mm,
decided to say, I'm not liking where things are headed. I want
mhm.
to change, and one of the things I said to myself was, if I continue down this path, I think I'm going to have a heart attack. I better move.
Oh man, yeah. You have
Yeah,
to pay
right.
attention to that, right? And I don't know
Yeah.
about you, but was it like a conflict between your own personal values and your workplace's values? Was that one of the signs for you or not necessarily?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. And that's what I want to talk about a little bit, right? Because, you identifying ADHD and they figuring out that this is something that you have, right?
Mhm.
Figuring out that, you know, morals and values and ethics are big to me, that I don't want to stay in that same kind of line,
Yeah.
worrying about what happened to my health, right? And I guess
Yeah.
that's kind of same with you, right? So, you know,
Mhm.
trying to segue a little bit to what you're doing and recognizing these signs, right? So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about, why did you choose this industry, right? Because now you're diagnosed, you look back and you see things. So tell us what drew you
Yeah.
to this industry.
Well, and I'm sure this story happens to people a lot too. It was kind of like it chose me a little bit. So it would
Hmm.
people kept coming to me for advice on their careers and on what to do next or on how to change from one specific career to another. I think
Hmm.
partly because I had done it successfully so many times and I loved it. I loved helping people to switch from a career that they didn't want to be in anymore to one that they really wanted to be in because it's
Hmm.
so possible. So many people feel like they're not sure they can do it, and I just loved turning the impossible into the possible for people. So I was doing this on the side for a
Hmm.
long time, and I loved it. So, yeah, so when I decided to start my own coaching business, it just made a lot of sense to do this, uh,
Right.
career change work, and then for ADHD women in particular, I mean, that's me. That's me, ADHD women over 40. So
Right. Right. Now, do you think this gave you somewhat of an advantage, even though it kind of was a disadvantage that you were identified and having ADHD? Do you think that helped carve
oh,
your path to where you are now and helping people?
1,000%, a thousand
Yeah.
percent, Chuck. And another thing is, I think that while and this is an insight I think I had even while I was still working in corporate, was that while having ADHD, or at least my specific personality, made me not a very good worker bee, because I was always having ideas and I always wanted to, go off on these like other tracks, and I always wanted to make strategy and like do particular things. It made me a terrible worker bee, but it makes me a fantastic entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Um, so it's sort of like, if you're not doing well in one place, maybe you're in the wrong place. It might not be you, it might just be where you are.
Yeah. Yeah. Just thinking about that, it's like you can see, like, if you're in a corporate world and they give you three tasks to do and you can't focus on one at a time, you're all over the place, and then you can't finish them, right? That
Yeah.
that's an issue. But yet here you are using it to your advantage now, because this is something that you identified, and you can help other women through this.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and another thing I've noticed, and I don't know if you noticed this when you went into business for yourself, is that it's so much easier to do things now that I am in charge of the strategy. I know what the big picture is because I created the big picture for my business. So I'm always making decisions that are aligned with that. Whereas when I was working for other people, Chuck, I couldn't do that very well. I was always coming up with ideas that were great, and then somebody would tell me, "Oh, actually, we changed the strategy." So,
Hmm. Absolutely. Right. I mean, that just makes sense, right? I mean, we are in control of our destiny and our future. So if we can identify what we're good at, identify what we want to do,
hmm,
getting to that direction now is up to us.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Seize
Yep.
it. Seize your
Yeah.
future.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So my end goal has always been the same, but yet my path is like all over the place. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs and very successful entrepreneurs talk about that. How
Yeah,
we have this goal, but yet it's never a straight line, right? It's hills, it's valleys, it's crooked lines, it's all over the
yeah.
place, because our little goals change to get to the bigger goal.
Yep. Yep. And I think and some entrepreneurs talk about this and some don't. But with the successful ones, you only hear about the success they got to at the end. You don't hear about all those little failures that they were experimenting with along the way. So it takes 100 tries, right, before they get to
That
the
is so
one that
true.
worked out. And so
That
I
is so
keep telling
true.
myself while I'm in this experimentation phase that like I have to
Right.
try a bunch of times. The first one's not going to get it.
Exactly. Right. So tell us a little bit about your process. So what is it? How
Mm.
do how do you go about finding your clients, or how the clients find you? Tell us a little bit about your process.
Yeah. So, one of the things I do is like I come onto podcasts with folks like yourself and just kind of get the word out. I try to connect
Mhm.
with like-minded folks, right? I have an email list that I use, and my process as far as working with my clients is we start by looking at their work history. Where have you been? Uh, what are the patterns that you're repeating that you don't realize that you're repeating? And
Mhm.
we go from there to looking at your values. You and I just talked about how when your values personally are not a match to your career, your employer, your workplace, it feels awful. And sometimes you don't even realize that's what it is. You just know you're constantly having to do things you don't want to do, you're not comfortable with.
Right.
They give you the ick. um,
Yeah.
yeah, so all of that is just that, and that just it tends to get worse over time rather than
Mhm.
better. So you need to kind of capture that, right? What's important to you? What's
Right.
most important to you? So you can move in a direction of
Mhm.
that. And so
Right.
many of us, we never take a moment to do that because we don't feel like we deserve to, you know?
And we're in the life
Um,
rat race, right? I mean, we're constantly
yeah.
on the go. And I just had a conversation with a guy about this. It's like, we have these high expectations for ourselves. And I think sometimes
Mm,
that drives, the ADHD like symptoms, right? Because we're all over the
mhm.
place, because I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta be here, I gotta be there. And then before you
Yeah.
know it, you don't know what you're supposed to be doing, right?
Yeah, well, and what you said about that guy, in the rat race, that is I see that so much that we are going we're we're measuring ourselves to what we think society wants from us
Right.
based on something that it may not even be something we're aware of. It's subconscious. And
Yeah.
it's not until we really examine some of those beliefs that we don't even know we have that we're able
Right.
to sort of say, wait a minute, what am I doing here? Why am I doing that? What do I want? You know? And so
So true.
that's what I do with my clients, is I just kind of untangle some of that and say, okay, what do you want? What's
Yeah.
important to you? And then how do we get you, there? Sometimes
Hmm.
clients come to me and they know exactly what they want. They just
Yeah.
haven't said it out loud to anyone yet. And so
Hmm.
working with me kind of gives them permission to say what it is they want. And a lot of times that takes the form check of like, well, what I really want to do is XYZ, but um,
Aha. To get the aha moments, right?
yeah, yeah. And so that's where
Right.
we dig in a little more with like, okay, tell me more about why it's so impractical and unfeasible and impossible. And then we
Right.
we get down to the meat of it. And those are really fun clients to work with because they have a
Right.
dream. They've thought a lot about that dream, Chuck, and
Hmm.
they even have a plan for how to do it. They just
Right.
haven't given themselves permission to pursue it. So yeah,
Right.
I mean that's a little about my process, and I love what I do.
Yeah.
It's
That's
so
so
much
important,
fun.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So the question now is, so do you help people who have been identified by a doctor with ADHD, or is it people who don't think or don't know they have ADHD, or both? Can
All
you do both?
yeah, both, all sorts.
Because
I
that's what I was
sort
going to
of
say. I was going
see
to say, hey,
yeah.
Rachel, I think I got ADHD. What do I do?
All sorts. I mean, if you it's like I see it as a spectrum, Chuck, like
Oh,
anything.
okay.
It's like we all are a little ADHD, really. I mean, we all
Yeah.
suffer from distraction. We all suffer from some of these symptoms. And so while this is how I've sort of pigeonholed myself as, for women over 40 with ADHD,
Hmm.
anyone who feels like I can help them is who I work with. And so,
Hmm.
I've worked with, many men who are kind of escaping corporate America or consulting. I've worked with, uh, people who both have been diagnosed and haven't been diagnosed. So it all depends.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about some of the challenges that you face getting this going, and how you got started, and what were these
Yeah.
challenges? I know you
Well,
have some of those.
oh man, don't we all?
Don't we all?
Well, one of the big challenges I faced was the same one a lot of my clients faced early on, which was just even believing that I could do this.
Yeah.
So that same thing a lot of my clients do when they meet me is to say, well, what I really want to do is X, but I was doing that same thing to myself for years, which is one
Hmm.
reason I notice it when my clients do it. And it's so important to me to help them work through it because I know how great life is on the other side of that, and I want to help them get there. So that was
Yeah.
my first big challenge. And
Hmm.
then, now that I'm here, I think my big challenge right now is just you wear so many hats. Being in business for yourself, like, some days you're marketing, some days you're doing PR, some days you're the accountant. And remembering to be the CEO on top of all of that so that you're still driving the business, right? Um,
So spot on. Absolutely.
I had this epiphany. It was like maybe a month ago that I was kind of frantically like, I'm trying to learn all the things, right? I'm in that like beginner's mindset. And so I was trying to learn all I could about this and that and the other thing. And in taking advice from every quarter, I was
Mhm.
inadvertently giving away a lot of control of my business without even meaning to. And, no one was asking me to. I just was, following orders, right? In terms of the
Yeah.
people I was taking advice from. And I realized I was really unhappy and doing things I wasn't sure I agreed with. And then I thought, wait a minute, it's my business, right? I'm in charge.
Yeah, it's yours. Why am I doing things that I don't want to do? Right.
Right, right. So remembering that, right? It's an unexpected challenge. So I'm trying to remember every day I'm the CEO, right?
That's right. This is my business, and it will
Right.
be what I want. Yeah.
Right.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, touching back on your point when you're talking about wearing multiple hats, it brought back
Mm.
a thought when I was in the corporate world and the coaching and mentoring. that was very rewarding for me because I had to wear,
Hmm.
you know, anywhere between 12 to 20 different hats a day because you had multiple personalities
Yeah.
on your teams that you had to coach. And talk about a little bit of ADHD, right? Because you're everywhere, and you're drawn in different directions. And
Yeah.
while it was very rewarding, it was also very challenging, but I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just it's amazing. So I, it's just, I don't know. You look back at the things that you do, and that you mentioned, about you know all these different challenges we have, and how all of us possibly do have a little touch of ADHD, which I have to agree with.
It does feel that way sometimes, you know? I mean, the
Yeah,
more people
right.
I talk with, the more people are like, I mean, I feel like I have a little bit of that too. I mean, so I guess that's why I say that. It's not, I mean, I'm not by any means a doctor, Chuck.
Right.
I'm not qualified to comment on that.
I'm not
But yeah.
qualified to say that, but hey. So is there a process where you identify if they have ADHD or?
No, not at all. I mean,
Okay.
I just work with people at the point when they come to me. My starting point with folks is, somebody comes to me and they are frustrated with their career. They feel like they have dead-ended where they are, or they feel like they are one place, but they really want to be somewhere else. Maybe
Right.
they know where they want to be instead, or maybe they don't.
Hmm.
And that's the point at which somebody finds me. But yeah,
Gotcha.
diagnosing people, no,
No.
that's not my thing.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I was going to ask, if there's like an intake form where somebody fills out a questionnaire and then you kind of model off of that of what their answers are, that's what you start to look
Not
at how
right
to help
now.
them.
No, what I do right now is I do a quick, like a free consult call, a free, career strategy consultation call with folks to
Mhm.
kind of kick things off. And that's where we kind of talk with each other and find out, what their goals are. And I make sure that we're going to be a good fit, right? And if it feels like I'm not going to be a good fit for them, that's where I would refer them to someone else.
Mhm.
But that's what I really use right now as my intake process. I think once I get a better feel for what I would want to include, that's when I'm going to go to an intake form. I do have one drafted, but
Yeah.
I've just found it easier to talk with people instead right now. I think because I'm just still getting the ball rolling. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Well, I think that makes sense too, right? Because you get to actually talk to the person, you
yeah.
hear them, you can feel what's going on, and
It
get,
feels it feels more personal,
yeah,
more
that's what I was looking for, the personal level, right? Because you're actually
yeah.
physically working with this person, see what their personal goals are and how you can get to help them, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
working for me right now, and it seems to work well for my clients too.
Hmm. That's good. That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
And what a great segue into my next question is, so how do we reach out to you? How do we contact you?
Oh, well, I have got a freebie for your audience, which would be a great way for them to reach out. And I
Oh,
think,
wow.
do we want to include it in the show notes or something? How do you usually do that? Um,
Yeah, so that was the last question would have been, about if you're offering a discount to our
oh,
listeners.
yeah,
But
yeah.
but
Well,
if you want to push that up to this next one, it's fine with me. So go ahead.
yeah,
Let's
well,
talk
that's
about the
that's
discount
a
thing.
great way to
Great.
reach out. It's at
Okay.
rachelgaddiscoaching.com/start career change today, but I know you're going to put it into the show notes today. But you can always find me on my website, rachelgaddiscoaching.com, or on LinkedIn. You can connect with me there. I'm Rachel Gaddis on LinkedIn.
And that's RachelGaddis.
That's right. Thanks.
Just in case I want to spell, just in case people said, what is it, two
No, that's
T's or is it
good.
one T? Right.
Right. That's Gaddis. That's right.
Right. People spell Rachel so many different ways
Oh,
now,
it's true. Yeah, it's true.
Right. Right. So, what are some of the expectations for your business in the next year or two? What are you looking to accomplish?
Well, I would like to grow my email list quite a lot, so that I can just, build a bigger community around this,
Hmm.
via email. And ultimately, I'd also like to get some courses going. I don't know if that's going to happen this year, but
Okay.
that's one of the things that I'd like to do in the foreseeable future.
Right.
I just, I think I want to use my email list and my kind of, client base in the foreseeable future to sort of build up more of a track record so I can figure out what would be good course content to include for my group.
Right. Yeah, that's good
Yeah.
because I was going to mention two of those. I was going to mention courses, and then what was the other one? Possibly, what was the other one? I had another one in mind too. I had a thought process that just left me. Um,
It's that ADHD, Chuck.
Talk about ADHD, right? Oh, blog. Do you have a blog? Do you
Oh, I
blog
do have
about
a
things?
blog. Yeah, it's on my website.
All
Yeah,
right.
so yeah, check out the blog. And I am real good about sending out emails and posting on LinkedIn. I post a lot
Hmm.
of not just posts and offers, but also just anything I think will be useful as far as career changes or just tips or just interesting things. I'm very into using AI prompts to make things easier because, like so many of us with ADHD, I'm all about doing things the quote lazy way or the most efficient way, right? I don't like to waste
Right.
time on repetitive things. So
Right.
you'll see me posting the occasional like tip on how to use AI for something because
Hmm.
I'm all about making it easier on us.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So we stay focused, right? Because that's what you do, right? Help people focus. So
Exactly. Yeah. Automate
that's a
whatever you can.
yeah, that's a key word today, right? Focus, Chuck.
Yeah.
Focus. Oh, Rachel, thanks for coming on the podcast and telling your
Oh,
story.
thanks
I really
again for
enjoyed it.
having me. This was so much
Absolutely.
fun.
Thank you. Now, what's one thought you want to leave with our audience today?
Man, if I could just communicate one thing to you guys, it would be it is not too late. You are never too old to change careers. And, if you've got one in mind that you want to do, just get started on it. Do it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I agree, right? Because you get a certain age and people think, well, I may as well just stick with what I'm doing because I can't
Yeah.
do anything else. I'm getting older and
Yeah.
there's no chance at things. But I agree with you. It's never too late to get started on
It's
anything,
not
right?
too late. It is not
Yeah.
too late. My grandfather started learning how to play the violin in his 70s. And
Wow.
I find that so inspiring. I think about that a lot when I think about the it's not too late uh thing.
Yeah.
It is just not. Just do it. Just make a start. Get
Right. And
closer to
that's
what you want.
impressive. That's a great age
It
to pick
is,
up
right?
something new.
It's
That's
just
that's amazing.
he would find something he was interested in and he would just start doing it. And I just
Uh-huh.
think that's the way to live your life.
Right. That's totally impressive. And what great advice. Absolutely. I will remember that. Every time I complain, hey, I know a guy that started the violin in the 70s. So keep going, Chuck.
Right,
You're only
right. Think
54.
about him.
Right.
You're
You're only
young, you're a
54.
spring chicken, Chuck.
You
So
know,
am
you got
I.
a
So am
long way
I.
to go.
That's right. You have years left to learn.
Exactly. Well, Rachel, thanks again for coming on. I really appreciate it. I
Thank
enjoyed this
you.
podcast.
Thanks again. Have a great day.
Absolutely. You too. Enjoy the rest of your day, okay? Take care. You've been listening to the Q.A.C. Team podcast with your host, Charles Luttrell. Connect with us on the web at qacteam.com, Facebook and Instagram at qac.team. Thanks for listening.